Health, safety, and environment has always been, in fact, the largest area of funding for petroleum research in Atlantic Canada and now us over the last few years. Some of the projects that have been executed by commercial firms. These pictures, for example, are the lifeboat simulator that's been developed by VMT with support from us and currently in use by Marine Institute. So there is really good capability in this area in emergency response and health, safety, and environment in Newfoundland and Labrador. So we should be able to get some really meaningful joint industry projects underway in this subject matter area. Some of the projects we already have on the go are produced water monitoring and treatment, sensors for fugitive or flare emissions. We still have some simulation JIPs underway, and escape, evacuation, and rescue in ice. This is one we also intend to make really good traction on in 2012, much like Gary's coming on board. A couple of weeks ago, Susan Hunt, who some of you may know, also started with our organization, and she is going to be the program manager for this subject matter area. So early days on this. But lots of potential, lots of really good ideas. And in fact, the annual call, which I'll talk about in a minute, is on this subject area as well. So we expect to get good ideas from the community. Talk next about our seeding programs. And the seeding programs are a continuation of what petroleum research has done for the first 10 or 11 years of its existence. And it's to support the capacity development in the strategic focus areas, but in the early part of the innovation supply chain. So this is, I don't know if any of you are familiar with technology readiness levels in the oil and gas business, but certainly at the far left hand of the scale where we want to invest in some pure research, this is an opportunity to put some money out there to generate good ideas that may turn into some longer term and more significant R&D opportunities. So right now we've got a few key activities. Insert the CREATE program, which is a training program for offshore technology here at MON, and the MITEX Accelerate Internship Program, which some of you may be aware of, which puts undergrads and graduate students and postdoc students in the oil and gas business using various environmental offshore research themes. I want to talk a little bit more, though, about the annual call process because it's quite a public process. And so our objective in our annual calls is to provide a formal mechanism to hear about new ideas. We want to initiate technology in the early part of the innovation supply chain. And we've got a hopper. We've developed over the last 3 years, I would say, since 2009. We've been building up a portfolio of research and development ideas by the oil and gas industry that we're trying to translate into these JIPs that we've got this year. Part of the reason for the calls is to find out about new things so that we keep the hopper full so that in 2013, 2014, we've got some additional ideas in which the industry might want to invest. So the calls are a way of gathering in that inventory. This year's call is focused on health, safety, and environment, and it closes tomorrow. And Robert Trask is here with us today. Robert's, raise your hand. Robert's our research grants coordinator, and he is coordinating this call. Any of you who are participating and might want to uncover any details or get an inside leg or something on this, corner Robert afterwards. So those are due tomorrow, actually. And this is the timeline that we typically use, we think we'll use for the call process. And we issue the call usually the first week in January. So for the month of January, you can put together your proposals. We'll take a month to do the first call. And yes?
How was the call issued? Because we do a lot of R&D, but we never heard of it.
Direct email,
and paper
research, pretty widely.
Maybe there's an opportunity for some improvement there if you didn't hear about it. But it is pretty widely disseminated. So after we do the first pass at them, the ones we choose, we'll do a request for full proposals and give you another 5 or 6 weeks to do that. And then our evaluation team, which is made up of both our staff and people from the industry, will do a more in-depth evaluation. And we'll notify the successful proponents somewhere around the end of May, early June each year. Of course, we've got a long period of time to negotiate agreements, which is, you know, part of the world we live in, I suppose, but it tends to take 2 or 3 months to get agreements in place. Last thing I want to talk about that may be of interest to the folks in this room are unsolicited proposals. We do accept unsolicited proposals. There's a way to do them. You go on our website. We've got a form you can fill out. Ideally, it'd be good if they fit into our subject areas, our key focus areas. That way, you know, it'll immediately get some attention and get some traction. But they don't have to. You know, you can have good ideas that one or more of our members may really clue on that they want to do some work on. We'll review and we'll advise. We do an initial screening and advise whether or not we think it's suitable for industry to look at. And if it's interesting, we'll invite a full proposal. And we have some standard agreements that will be put in place for that. So, quite frankly, though, you know, we've got a really full menu of work that we're doing on behalf of the industry. And we'll try not to get too distracted by unsolicited proposals, I can tell you right now, because we've got a lot to deliver on and only so many staff at this point. Just to give you an idea of the scale of our organization, I was saying that for the first 10 years, we probably placed $1 million to $2 million in R&D funds. Last year, we more than doubled that. We probably hit around $5 million, and this year, we want to triple that again. So we're hoping to land, you know, in the $15 to $20 million in terms of total JIP funding and programs in place. So there's a lot to do, and you know, we need to keep our focus. Not to discourage you too much, because you'll have great ideas. All right, closing messages. Not too bad. Again, just to emphasize, 90% of our effort is going to be on that directed research, those major JIPs. That's what we've got our people for, and they're going to be focused on trying to get those agreements in place and those major JIPs off the ground. The scale is increasing from what we used to do before. Consequently, there's more accountability. And the next point, we need better project execution, we need business savvy, we need people with professional proposals, with a good project execution plan, with good reporting, with good controls in place. If you've done any business with the oil and gas industry, money comes with accountability, same as the employees. And so we'll be taking that on as we put larger and larger JIPs in place. There'll be more and more requirements. It's just not the bag of money. A couple of final comments about touchy subjects, you know, confidentiality and intellectual property. We try to be confidential and hold everything we receive in confidence. Sometimes, though, there aren't many new ideas under the sun. Our members have very significant R&D departments themselves, and if you think you've got a good idea about the oil and gas business, chances are there's someone in a research office in Rio de Janeiro or in northern China who might have it as well. So we may ask you to sign a waiver so that 3 years from now, when you see your widget show up on the FPSO offshore, you're not saying they stole my idea. But you know, we'll be pretty sensitive to that, and we'll try and use our best judgment in determining whether or not we need to keep things confidential. Similarly, on intellectual property, you know, it can be a really contentious point of negotiation. We will have to sort out intellectual property requirements before we sign in any funding agreements. There's a range of outcomes with IP. Don't automatically assume that you're going to keep 100% of your IP, or that industry wants 100% of your IP. There's a range of outcomes there, from licensing to some commercial terms in return for giving you back all your IP. But if you want the funding, be prepared to discuss IP and the range of outcomes there. So that's important to some folks in this room. Just a closing comment. You know, I said before, take a long-term view on this. Probably $30 to $35 million in R&D obligations in 2011. Half a dozen years leading up to that, similar obligations. 20 years to go beyond that. More funds required in this area. Take a long-term view. It's a real opportunity for this province and our industry to make a real impact on the research and development landscape. We can become known as a center of excellence for all of these areas, and everybody will come to us. The important thing is do a good enough job so that even after the obligations are gone or they're reduced, oil and gas companies will continue to come here for the areas of expertise that are inherent to Newfoundland and Labrador. So it's really incumbent on all of us to achieve that. So Thanks for listening to me here this morning, and thank you, Les, for inviting me.
Well, thank you very much.